All right, welcome to another edition of the Hardwood Huddle, brought to you by BackSportsPage.com. With me, as always, we have the Supreme Leader. He is the head turkey. He is Lord Vader himself, Mr. Bill Ingram. Bill, happy holidays, and here we go. NBA camp opens in a week.
Get excited. It seems like the season we just had the finals, and now already. And as we were talking about off the air, some of the teams aren't even sure what media day looks like yet.
Let's explain that process on how this works. So part of training camp, the first day of training camp, there's really, if they do a practice, some teams do a practice afterwards, but there's something called media day, where that's the day, like when you watch the game on TV and they show the graphic of the player like throwing the ball in the air. They're filming that aspect of it. They take pictures for different publications, and it gives the media the opportunity to sort of sit down with players and talk with them about themselves, how their offseason was, or just be introduced to the team, everything like that. And so this is not a normal season. Usually we have media day beginning of the end of September, beginning of October. October is training camp. At end of October, beginning of November is when the season starts, and then it starts picking up around Christmas time. This year, because of the bubble ending in the bubble ended in September, maybe October. We did the draft last week, free agency last week, and now we're getting ready for camp next week. And there's a lot of player movement. You and I started discussing last week about it, and I was very, 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 very skeptical on some of the moves that were being made. And I could tell that you're very skeptical. Because first off, we still haven't had Anthony Davis officially announced, I'm a Laker. That has not happened yet.
Right. I think there's been a lot of moves. I was speaking to a Western Conference executive a couple days ago just about some of the moves made around the conference particularly. And he said, there's been a lot of movement, but not a lot of improvement. And I thought that really a lot of people have changed uniforms, but with one or two exceptions, I think Covington landing in Portland is one. I love Oubre landing in Golden State just when the Warriors were desperate for a starting shooting guard who could hit the three. But outside of that, and Derek Favors to Utah, I think is an underrated move, and Utah keeping their core group together, I think is really going to help the cohesion of that team. But you look at the teams that made big changes or tried to in Houston, Lakers made some big changes. Are they really better or are these lateral moves? It's going to be interesting to see how things blow up in Houston if they really are going to start camp with Westbrook and Harden, which all indications are they are. Now you've added DeMarcus Cousins. From a talent standpoint, it could work, but from a mentality, I mean, my God, you've got so many explosive situations that really better. Phoenix is better, probably, with Chris Paul, though does age play a factor? Because if he goes down, forget that. And then, of course, we just saw Brandon Ingram re-signed to a max contract. It's the name, I think, is what got him the money. But are they a playoff team?
No.
Mm-hmm.
No,
probably not. Not barring some weird scenarios. No, I don't think so. So lots of movement, but not a lot of improvement.
Well, here's the official note here. DeMarcus Cousins reaches an agreement with the Houston Rockets. On a side note, the Houston Rockets have been brought in 9 more psychologists to deal with players on the team. They deal with James Harden. DeMarcus Cousins has 5 by himself. Harden has the other 4.
Well, when you have ADHD is a thing, man, and I've spent many years working with students who are afflicted with that particular thing, and it's a challenge, and it's a challenge when medicated. And I know when he was with Sacramento, Cousins refused to take medication. And Keith Smart told me on many occasions, he said, look, we don't know what he's going to do. We have a game plan. He doesn't run it. He doesn't know it. He's going to take the ball and do something that's not what we were supposed to be doing. And it costs us games all the time. And Keith Smart, if he'd had any hair, he'd have been pulling it out because he's just trying to keep Cousins channel the talent into a game plan. It was nearly impossible. And when David Morway was offered the Sacramento Kings general manager's position, he told them flat out, the first thing I'm going to do is trade DeMarcus Cousins. We have to build a culture. And they called him back the next morning and said, if that's really what you're going to do, we're going to go a different direction.
Yeah.
And he didn't take the job, and they did wind up trading Cousins later. He was right. But Cousins is a head scratcher because the talent is undeniable if he's healthy, when you miss that much time with an injury. But even if he's healthy, the mentality it's really a challenge for students, for athletes, for anybody that has that.
Yeah, and I also think with DeMarcus Cousins, it's a shame that he signs with the Lakers and then that happens. You don't wish that upon anybody, but at the same time, you're now at the point where you just have to I don't know. He just didn't work well, and hopefully this is the Midas touch, right? Hopefully you're saying this is the opportunity he needs to be there.
Well, I think the hope with the Lakers was that LeBron would be the calming influence for DeMarcus, and probably would have been. I think when you think about Houston, though, who's that going to be? Not going to be James Harden.
James Harden's going to have the angel and devil on the shoulder. Listen to me, DeMarcus. No, listen to me. Listen to me. Listen to me. Listen to me.
But don't expect to get the ball. Could it be Westbrook? I don't know. Westbrook is one of the toughest players in the league. He's going to play hard on both ends of the floor, and he holds his teammates to high expectations, but he's not a great communicator. So I don't know. I don't know if the guy is there in Houston. It's not going to be. They just signed Zagana Diop to their coaching staff, who I love. I always remember him in Dallas because the promo when he came in the game was Gana Diop. But is he going to be someone that can put his arm around Cousins and get him under control? Do you ask Akeem to come in and talk to him? I don't know. There's a lot of question marks around Houston right now.
Yeah, when Akeem says, "Listen, I can't help you," that's when there's nothing we can do.
Good luck. I go to Africa. Good luck.
Yeah. I stay in England. This is your shit show, not mine.
I can't come back right now. The COVID is bad. Yeah, I don't know. That's rough. That's rough.
Yeah, so like what we were saying before, Anthony Davis hasn't claimed a home yet, technically, even though he's pretty much they're probably just working out the deal. I wouldn't be surprised if LeBron is sitting there telling him, "Do not sign a 5-year deal. I ain't going to be here through the end of it. So just do 2 years and like I'm doing, we'll sign contracts 1 year at a time and ride this thing out." And I think by doing that, you're hurting. The franchise itself gets hurt because that means you have no future. And I think that is the biggest problem with superstar players now. Is so concerned about trying to build around now.
Well, if I'm Anthony Davis, my contract looks exactly like LeBron's, because if you take LeBron off of that team, you're not making the playoffs. You're the Los Angeles Pelicans. That's pretty much what you are. If you take Anthony Davis off that team, they're not making the playoffs either. Let's be fair. But so yeah, my contract looks just like his. And I'm saying, okay, does LeBron decide to play? Does he decide to go play with Damian Lillard or Kevin Durant, or he's going to chase the star teammates, and so then Anthony Davis has the option to chase his own destiny somewhere else, or follow LeBron, or whatever. That can be a whole nother.
I just literally had the mental picture when you said
agency.
I literally just had a Back to the Future line. His density.
Yeah. Your density. I mean, your destiny. Yeah.
You know what everybody leaves off when they quote that line? The milk, the milk line, right? Because give me a milk, chocolate, everyone.
Right. He was such a good nerd.
He really was. So one of the moves that I saw that really intrigued me was, I think we discussed it briefly the other day, was the 76ers trading Al Horford.
Mm-hmm.
And I was sort of just shaking my head, and I'm looking at the moves that the Sixers are making. And they finally got a little bit of shooting, a little bit of backcourt help for Doc. I ask you flat out because you know Doc, you've been around him, and you understand him. Is this 76ers team one of those teams that just needed the right driver in the bus, or is there more roster tinkering that has to get done right now?
Well, and of course, Daryl Morey added Dwight Howard to his team for the second time at a much deeper discount this time. But, I think Doc has his work cut out for him because, as you mentioned, they have some shooting now. And but you've got two guys in Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid who their games don't strictly speaking complement each other. But if I'm Doc, I sit them both down and I say, look, you've been in the league long enough, especially Embiid. It's time for you to define who you are as a player and what your legacy is going to be. Are we going to be a team that 2 years ago everybody thought was going to be an upper echelon team in the East for years to come? Are we going to be that team now? Or was there just such a huge flaw in that plan that we can't be that team? It's up to those two guys, I believe, to decide that. Yeah, there's other players, good players, who are going to help. But those are the big lottery picks, the big foundational type players. And if that team is not top 3 or 4, I almost say top 3 in the East come whenever the trade deadline is going to be this year.
Still February.
I got to believe there's a major roster something coming, because if you can't do it with Doc Rivers and those guys can't play together, and even with the adjustments they've made, somebody's got to go. You got to believe it's Simmons. Something's going to have to radically change there.
Yeah, I didn't like that move again, because I think there's something to be said about having post players and if you're going to have Embiid shooting threes, it'd be nice to have Al Horford sitting there rebounding and putting it back in.
Can't be shoot. You can't. If you're Joel Embiid, no.
Yeah. No. It's no.
If you're open once a game, but you need to be in the post. That's where you belong. That's where you need to be. There are other guys on the team who can shoot jumpers.
So it's also, I think Tobias Harris contract was one of more overpaid ones during free agency last year. And I understand why the Sixers had to do it, because they were going to lose him if they didn't overpay him. But at the same time, he did nothing last year.
There's something you have to consider, and Brandon Ingram is in the same situation. There's two factors you have to consider. Number one, if the Pelicans let Brandon Ingram walk, who comes there? If Philadelphia had not re-signed Tobias Harris, who, hey, I'll take Tobias Harris on my team any day. He's a great number 3 for any team in the league. He's one of those rare guys that can help any team in the league with the nuance part of the game. I really thought Golden State should have thrown the kitchen sink at him to when Kevin Durant left. But I love Tobias Harris's game. He does everything. He does everything well. He's a more offensively gifted Shane Battier, in my opinion. And it's a matter of how you use him. And so the reason you have to pay a contract like that is those two things. One, who are we going to get if he walks? Who's coming? Who are we going to sign? And two, can he get that money somewhere else? Are we making him an offer that he's going to get paid that money, that roughly that same contract, one way or the other? We want it to be on our team. And that's the calculus that goes into these things. And that's how guys get the perception of being overpaid. Hell, I think that Brandon Ingram contract is insane. But if he walks, they're screwed. So you got to pay what you got to pay to be in the game. And I think that's the side that is not always considered when we're breaking down who got paid what. I think you have to consider those factors.
And not only that, too, but they had egg on their face because they really did think that at one point they were going to re-sign Jimmy Butler.
Yeah. They'd be if they had, but look what Jimmy Butler has done. I think he's underrated in terms
a little bit.
basketball IQ because he didn't stay there. He saw the flaw in their system and he didn't stay. And then he went to Minnesota and immediately was like, he started feeling out the culture there and said, no, I'm not doing this. I'm going to be over here. Let me know when the bus arrives, and winds up in Miami and they're in the finals because I think
it was reversed. It was reversed. He was at Minnesota. He was Chicago, Minnesota, Philadelphia.
Right. So, but he's not going to stay in situations that he recognizes whether the situation is good or not, and he moves on one way or another. And when he got to the situation where he saw the culture was right, and we know Spoelstra, we know Pat Riley, the culture in Miami is never the problem. And he got there and they flourished. So I think had Philly listened to Jimmy Butler a little bit, maybe they should have been letting him not call shots, but certainly have more input into what was going on with the roster, because he knows what a winning team looks like.
Well, here's another key thing too, and I just want to play a what if and an imagine thing. Can you imagine Anthony Davis spurns the Lakers and joins Miami, and Jimmy Butler had Anthony Davis with him?
Well,
just think about that pairing.
How many teams were playing 72? I think the Heat would win 70. Well, I remember Anthony Davis is going to miss 10 or 15 games probably. So, but Miami would be, I don't know how anybody would beat them in either conference if Anthony Davis did that.
Yeah, but the simple fact of the matter is Miami, I thought, played above their expectation level. Obviously,
sure.
When Jimmy Butler signed with Miami, we were all saying, "What was he thinking?" Because it's Jimmy Butler and the sideshow pieces and Gordon Dragic, and you're sitting there, and then when you watch them, you're like, "Wow, this is something, man. This is something." And we all knew going into the NBA Finals it wasn't going to be. And we thought it was going to be a lot. We weren't expecting Miami to put up as much of a fight.
That's a team helped by the layoff. A lot of those young players were obviously putting in the work and came in drastically improved. Several of their young players came in as different players. Their games had evolved markedly. And that's a case of they spent the off time well. They clearly were training. They were working on their game, working on their bodies, getting themselves right. And they came in ready to go. And I think that we saw that with Phoenix as well. Phoenix came in much better in the bubble than they were prior. And as we've discussed, we also saw a team like Milwaukee come in, not the same team that was in the regular season pre-bubble. So, hey, give Spoelstra a lot of credit, because that is a testament to their developmental coaches. As we've talked about many times, the importance of developmental coaches in the modern NBA with young players coming in who are not, strictly speaking, NBA ready. And they made the most of that time off. And then, heck, if the injuries hadn't happened, they could have been holding that trophy.
I agree with that. And one other piece of news, I don't know if this is good news or bad news, but the San Antonio Spurs and DeMar DeRozan are tied together for a little while longer. I know we both think that DeRozan wasn't the problem, but DeRozan's not a number one guy. He's definitely a number two, number three guy. LaMarcus Aldridge has proven that he's a number four, number five guy at times. So, if you're San Antonio, what do you do at this point? Because you're not making the playoffs with this team.
You're not, and really thought they were going to move LaMarcus. I mean, I think everybody did. The rumors were many. But what's his trade value? I mean, when you've got a guy who I like DeMarcus, I've always liked him. And when he takes ownership of the situation, he's an incredible player. The problem is he only does that every fourth or fifth game, and then he's invisible for 2 or 3 games, and he's average for 2 or 3 games. So, when you got a guy making that much money, he's more attractive at the trade deadline as an ending contract than he is as a player you want to start your team with. I got to tell you, if I'm Brooklyn, though, you sit Kevin Durant down and you say, man, Spencer Dinwiddie's our guy. We don't need Kyrie. Popovich wants him. We're going to give you a power forward to play with. And I consider Kyrie for LaMarcus. Why San Antonio would do that, I don't know. But that was the rumor that Pop was interested in Kyrie. I'm like, okay, if he is, we can make that happen. But I think they're committed. Kyrie and KD are clearly committed to each other. And hey, we'll see how that works.
I think Pop wants to say, Kyrie, the earth is round.
Yeah. It's funny. He finally admitted that was wrong. He finally did say, "Oh, I just saw some stuff on the internet," and then, but that wasn't like, really? Didn't you go to Duke? I mean, okay.
That's where Coach K goes, I told you didn't go to class.
Yeah. Oh, your class was important.
Yeah. Okay, so let's each pick 3 teams and why on how much they improved and you think that they're going to be an improved team this year in the NBA. I'll start with you. What are your 3 teams?
The Atlanta Hawks are number 1. I mean, no question. When you look at the moves they've made in the last 2 weeks, or even the last week, it's like,
oh my God,
wow. Oh, in the East, number 2 would be Portland, even though they didn't have a long way to improve. But when they come back healthy with their bigs and their backcourt healthy, and then you add Covington, who is, I think, almost a Tobias Harris type of player, maybe not quite as good, but a really active body who's going to run and dive for loose balls, play that Jerome Kersey role for Portland. I love that move. And then, there's a lot of moves that are like, I guess I go with Phoenix, because if Chris Paul is healthy and can play 70-plus games and he's healthy come playoff time, wow, they've got Ayton in the middle. They've got Booker on the outside. They've got a lot of really good pieces, a lot of guys who play hard. And then they're building on the perfect record in the bubble. I think Phoenix could be a team that rises from the ashes. Let's just call it what a Phoenix is.
Yeah, no, it's true.
Those are my 3 right there.
My 3, I have 1 in there that is, the Hawks. You can't deny anything that they're doing. Like, and they started last year with Clint Capella. They're like, all right, we're going to commit.
Yep.
And they said, Trey, bear with us, and they did a heck of a job. So they're number 1. Another one that probably will surprise you a little bit, coming from me, is I like some of the moves that the New York Knicks said. Yes, I'm saying the New York Knicks made. And the reason why this is the first time that, and again, we are far off from seeing Knicks being a playoff team, but they did not go crazy. They did not overspend on free agency. They did not go crazy trying to make a move where they're mortgaging their future. They're staying pat, they're drafting, and they're holding on to their assets. And New York likes a gritty team that's going to dig deep and work and put the work in. And I think that's what this recipe that Tom Thibodeau is going to have to put together, even though Thibodeau doesn't like rookies and half of his guys are 2-3 year guys. I think they're going to surprise people by not being the worst team in the Eastern Conference this year, and might be battling for an 8th spot because they'll be gritty. And I think that's I think that's something to be said about that. So that's my number 2. That's my number 2.
So that's
and number 3. Look, I'll get slammed for this because they lost Klay Thompson, but I think the Golden State Warriors are there too. And the Warriors are going to be back. They're going to have Steph Curry, Andrew Wiggins, Draymond Green, this nice kid they just picked up in the draft. They made the deal for the other 2 guard to have another scorer with them. And Steve Kerr doesn't like missing the playoffs too often. So they're going to be dangerous. They're going to be a real dangerous team, and the Western Conference better watch out. And on that same note, you brought up Portland. Carmelo Anthony was like, yeah, I'm going to hang here.
Yeah.
He could have.
That says a lot. That he could have gone a lot of places, and he chose to stay in what is a very small market, team. And he seems to have He's blended in well. He hasn't tried to be the star. He understands where he is in his career, and he's become a utility guy and does what he's being asked to do. And Terry Stotts is a fabulous coach, I think, very underrated. And he's put those pieces together very well. And hey, like I said, Portland's going to be
Nurkic. Nurkic is the key to that team.
He is, and if they're healthy, Portland's the top seed in the West. They're incredibly deep, talented. They've got every position, multiple good players at each position, all-stars at different positions. And hey, I agree with you about Golden State. They've done very well there. I'll be shocked if they don't make the playoffs even without Clay. But Portland, I think that's your Western Conference champion right there.
Does the Toronto Raptors lose anything by losing Marc Gasol?
Yeah, they lose it. They lose an element, an important element, but they also lose Serge Ibaka.
That one hurts.
That one hurts. I think. Yeah. So now the onus is on them to replace those guys or somehow compensate. I don't think you can't compensate for losing both those guys. But they got to get something done between now and training camp. You can't hold your own in the East with no front court, no matter how good your backcourt is, and no matter you've got Siakam and Lowry are great, but you still, especially with Boston adding Tristan Thompson,
which I love that move, by the way.
Oh yeah, totally. The other teams that you're competing with have gotten better, especially in the middle. And to just let that go, Toronto's got to have a plan. That can't be it. This can't be the team that plays past January or so. I mean, no. You're going to be in the basement. That's where Atlanta carves out a playoffs berth right there is when Toronto would drop out without front court move.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very true. All right, Bill, real quick, let's give a quick NBA thankful story. Do you have something with the NBA that you're very thankful for this year?
Well, I've said anytime I've been asked, my success in the NBA was due to the commitment of two guys, Steve Kyler and Jason Fleming. That was the team, the three of us that built Hoops World. And then as much as that, it was to do with Mark Cuban and media team enabled us as an internet-only entity to be credentialed and to get time with players that at that time weren't a print publication, you didn't get it. So all the many things I've done in the NBA, all the great people I've known, worked with, become friends with, is all due to my teammates, Steve Kyler and Jason Fleming, and then just the fact that the Mavericks, Mark Cuban and Sarah Melton in particular, were willing to open the door and let us play. And that led to us being, credentialed league-wide. So I had a lot of people to be thankful for. And, of course, I'm thankful for my co-host here, Randy Zellea, for, the way we get to kind of dig in and look at the league and in a way that a lot of people aren't. We kind of share a mentality on the importance of the past to the present. And that's something I've always loved exploring. So thank you, too.
I thank you very much. I'm very thankful for having the Supreme Leader on our team. Very thankful to all of the staff at Back Sports Page. My patient fiance and the kids for always letting me play sportscaster, which is always fun. Now, Bill, gotta ask your opinion. I'm putting you on the spot on the air, but what do you think we go back and do a little bit of a retro thing that we used to do when we first started? We did the show. Or go back and maybe finding like a trade or something to dissect from the past and see what we can dig up about it, and maybe even try and dig back and see if we can have someone who's involved with it comment on it. But maybe we can we'll go back, we'll talk, maybe dig up an old situation, maybe a draft or an NBA Finals series we can dissect.
For sure. I'm game.
Awesome. I would love it. All right. So with that being said, Bill, I want to wish you a very happy Thanksgiving. I hope you guys end up a great adventure again this weekend. And
my dog.
I hope you end up a great.
your family and everybody watching, thanks for watching, and we'll be back next week after the Thanksgiving break.
You got it. And again, check out the Hardwood Huddle at backsportspage.com. We're going to be having our own YouTube channel and social media platforms coming soon. Yay! So until then, I hope everybody has a great Thanksgiving. For Bill Ingram, I'm Randy Zellea. Thanks for coming into the huddle. We'll see you later.
Take care, y'all.